Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rich Longo, and I will be your host. Thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners webinar. Today's webinar is BMC Client Management Deep Dive, now being presented by Emil Escarraman. Emil is a new addition to Flycast Partners with 6 months under his belt with us now. Emil has been in the IT industry for over 14 years. He has worked with AssetCore since it was released back in version 9 and has been supporting it since its release. Emil has provided Tier 3 support to corporations with their Numara software products, which include Trackit, Numara Patch Management, Numara Deploy, Network Monitor, and Numara Asset Management Platform, all while at BMC. At Flycast Partners, Emil continues to be a premier support specialist to all of our customers. Let me tell you more about Flycast Partners. We provide IT service management consulting to organizations across North America. Our clients remain ahead of the curve on technology adoption while maintaining the rock-solid principles of ITIL and practical, focused projects. Our website is always monitored by our team of well-trained ITSM specialists. Please visit us online at www.flycast. This is just one of our many weekly webinars that we present here at Flycast, and we encourage you to utilize our website for researching industry white papers, training that is available from ITIL to ITSM tools, ITAM tools, assistance with professional services, and the ITSM Solution Finder. We have received a number of biggest challenges that you sent us, and Emil has selected some of the most popular topics. Flycast would like to say thank you to Bobby of Maury Regional Medical Center, Kwang of Schlumberger, Gloria of Canon Business Systems, and Willa at World Opus Technologies for your biggest challenges. Your challenges were the most popular among today's registered audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to turn it over to Emil Escarraman.
Thank you. Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for that lovely introduction there. Let me go ahead and see if I can go ahead and share my desktop. So that we can take a look and go ahead and begin. All right.
So, it looks great.
Awesome. All right. So before I begin, I want to give you a quick introduction to my little environment here. So as you can see, I'm running 3 virtual machines here with these really catchy names for from Norse mythology. The first one here is Asgard, which is a machine that's going to be acting as my domain controller today. Now, the reason why I want to give you this quick rundown on how my environment looks is because some of the topics we're going to discuss today has to do with how to configure Active Directory for adding PCs and users from Active Directory, as well as agent rollouts for administration of the computers and making sure that your agents are installed there, as well as asset discovery. Okay, and then finally, we're going to go ahead and do a overview of software deployment today. We're basically going to be doing a software deployment to one of these devices, and you guys are going to be able to see it and see what's going on. So just a very quick introduction here. You can see here that I created a couple of fictional OUs here from different areas. I got Ontario OU with its computers. These are all fictional computers here. I got St. Petersburg, Florida. I got Tampa, Florida here with some users and computers, as well as Texas and a couple of other organizational units. Okay. Now that we have an idea of how the environment looks, we're going to go ahead and start off by configuring Active Directory so that you can add devices and you can add users to your AssetCore. So we're going to start off here by going into our global settings and then go into our directory servers. As you can see here, I already configured the Active Directory so that AssetCore can connect to it and make sure that we have everything here configured correctly. I told it to authenticate using the administrator account and its password, and as well as the server name, or I should say the domain name, which is called HomeNet. Okay, we test the logon, make sure that the connection is successful, and then we begin with the population. So we're going to start off with some administrators. We're going to go ahead and add some administrator groups here. So let's say, for example, here under administrator groups, I have configured 3 users here. Okay, we're going to say, for example, that group 1 is going to be our administrators. Now, to make sure that we have set that as administrators, basically we'll have access to everything in AssetCore. Okay, so this group of people here is going to have access to everything in AssetCore. It's going to be able to see all of these static objects. Now, the static objects are these items that you see on the left-hand side here. Everything as you expand on and look at each object, as far as what's visible and what you can select from this side, is what we call the static objects, which is in the second tab here. The final item here is the dynamic objects. Now, the dynamic objects is what populate your devices and general information from within the static objects. So to make sure that the administrators is able to see everything, we added all of the static objects that starts with all. And that way, when you log in as that person, you will be able to see everything within AssetCore, just like the admin account would. Now, I created some other groups here that will have limited access, like group 2, for example, is going to have only limited access to the device groups, as well as the agent configuration, direct access for remote control, the rollout, and it will be able to run queries and reports as well. Same thing here with the dynamic objects. Basically, you want to make sure that when you're doing your static objects, that the static objects matches the information that you have under your capabilities. And then finally, I added for them to be able to see all devices, be able to see all queries, and be able to see the all reports. This is pretty general. The system allows you to give a lot of granularity when assigning permissions for the users to see. Group 3 is another group that I created, and this group is going to have access to be able to do packages, be able to access a patch group, but notice that I didn't give it access to do a patch job. Okay, and then the same thing goes here. We do packages and batch deployment for the static objects. And finally, we want to make sure that they're able to see the devices underneath those groups, but I also assigned items that are related to the package deployment, which includes operational rules, package folders and packages, distribution tasks for the patch groups. I added these patch jobs by accident here, but they won't be able to see it because they don't have the patch job static object enabled. And then finally, queries and reports. Okay, so if let's say, for example, you want to associate a group 1 with a specific OU, what we do here is you expand the group, you will go under dynamic population, then you will go under directory server, and here you will assign the server that we actually configured. Now, the system allows you to see the items in Active Directory from here. Let me expand this a little bit so you can appreciate it a little bit better. So as I mentioned you in the introduction, you saw that I have my Texas, my Tampa, my St. Petersburg, and I got my Ontario machines here, as well as these other OUs that the system sees when you're synchronizing with Active Directory. So let's say that for group 1, I want to make this group of people in Tampa my administrators. So what you will do here is you will select the OU in question that you want, okay? And the system will take care of importing these users into AssetCore. So if we go ahead and click OK here, it's going to ask you the authentication type. You normally leave it as system, and then for the logon type, you're going to do domain/logon. Now the reason for that is because these people will be able to use their domain credentials when accessing AssetCore. Okay, what happens is that AssetCore sends a pass-through authentication from these users into the domain. Once the domain authenticates, then Asset Core opens, and they will be able to see the information. So we'll go ahead and click OK here. It will ask you if you want to synchronize immediately with directory services. You say yes. And then the system will tell you the new objects that it added. Now, I want you to notice one thing here. Remember that this group was called Group 1. Okay. Once you synchronize a group with Active Directory, the group is going to take on the name of the OU that you synchronized. So in this case, we synchronized Tampa. Okay, so it will show us tampa.homenet.local. Okay, and if we right-click and refresh here, these are my users from the OU with their respective credentials. Okay. So if we go here, see if I remember passwords that I set these guys up with, and if we go to BMC, let's give it a moment for it to open up. Right. Okay, I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to log in as this account. See if I remember the password correctly here. So I set this up on the fly the other day. All right. Let me do a quick change here. This is Tampa. Let me reset the password. Okay. We go back here. Perfect example here. As you guys saw, I changed the password in my domain, okay? And I went ahead and tried logging in again, okay? And as you can see, I am actually logged in right now as my domain account, and I can see pretty much all of the permissions in everything, just like the regular administrator account. I can see all packages with this. I can see all device groups, so on and so forth. So this was a good example on how the system can actually integrate with your domain environment, okay? And you can have your users log in with the same domain account, okay? And as you change passwords in Active Directory, okay, once you provide Asset Core with the password that the person currently has in AD, the system will be able to pass that through the domain, and then it'll allow them to log in. So it makes administration easier. That way you don't have to worry about adding users manually, although you have the option to add the users manually if you so wish, and provide them with a password that is completely separate from the ones in the domain. Okay, but if you have a lot of users, which I'm pretty sure most of you people do, I'm pretty sure that you don't want to go in there and start administering separate passwords from Asset Core, where you can just simply administer that all from your domain environment. Okay, so that's just a little quick overview on adding users using Active Directory. Now, can you do the same thing with devices? Absolutely. So if we go into the device groups here pretty quick, you'll notice that I have an out-of-the-box item here, which is basically the out-of-the-box groups that come with your installation of Asset Core. You have your old devices, you got your client devices. As you can see, I have a couple of client devices already set up for you. and you also have some discover devices, which we're gonna touch on in a few minutes. So let's say if you want to add a group or a device group from Active Directory, what you would do here is you will create a device group, and for now we're just going to call it new device group and just leave it at that. Okay. The reason why we're doing it this way is because, remember, as you import users from Active Directory, it changes the name of the user group. Okay, the same thing will happen if you're doing a device group. So we're gonna expand our device group. We're gonna go under dynamic population, and then we're gonna select directory server. Okay. Now, a lot of people, what they like to do is synchronize their entire domain, which the system will allow you to do. If you select HomeNet from here, from the root level, okay, the system will catch everything underneath it, and it'll create subgroups with these OU names as the system keeps adding them. Okay, the best practice, or what a lot of people prefer, is just to add the groups that you are interested in. Because what happens is that when you import from the root level, it'll bring items for you. It'll bring OUs that are kind of like hidden that the system can't see, and it'll make it a little bit messy for you to administer. So let's say, for example, I want to add these devices from Texas. Okay, so I got 2 sub OUs under Texas that are related to computers, and here in North Texas, I have an additional sub-OU called NT Domain 1 with some computers that are underneath it. I'm going to give you a quick example of what will happen when you synchronize from the top level. So we're going to synchronize Texas. I'm going to click OK here. You want to select all devices, okay? And it's going to ask you if you want to synchronize immediately. You say yes to that. And then it'll give you the results of the synchronization. As you can see, it'll create the groups, and it'll include the computers. So when you click close, notice that it changed to texas.homenet.local. So now it's not called new device group anymore. Okay, and if we refresh, here are the sub-OUs in the form of a group. So you got your Texas computers, okay? You have your North Texas computers, which are these 2 guys over here, and then finally you have this additional OU, the NT Domain 1 OU, and its computers underneath it. Okay. Now, this is something that you can do prior to doing a deployment. If you want to have an idea of how your environment looks, you can have this added prior to your deployment. That way, when you're selecting your devices, you can go ahead and deploy them by going through your list and in the OUs that you added into the system. That's a good practice right there. But you don't have to do this way. So let's say, for example, we're going to create another device group. Okay. And we're going to synchronize this device group with the Tampa domain, or with the Tampa OU, I should say, sorry. So if we assign server, go to HomeNet, go to Tampa, and we're gonna be more granular, and we're gonna select computers directly, so that way it won't create Tampa at the top level, then computers at the next level, and then show the devices. So we're just gonna go ahead and synchronize computers underneath Tampa. So we're gonna head and click OK. Go to devices, select synchronize, and you'll notice here that the status is saying new relation. Okay, it's not saying a new item or a new object. It's saying a new relation. And the reason for that is because these 2 devices already existed in the system as devices with clients. So if we click close, and you'll notice here that it gives you the OU level. So it says computers.tampa.homenet.local. And if we click refresh, here are my two devices with the relationships, and these devices already have the agent installed on them because I did a rollout earlier. Okay, Odin is my asset core machine, and Heimdall is my footprint service core demo box. All right. So it gives you the information on these devices as it pulls them from the agent. So if let's say, for example, I wanted to deploy these devices, I could always go into the global settings, go to rollouts, and do a client rollout, which is what I have configured here. I can assign a device group, and I can go ahead and assign my device groups this way. Okay? Just one of the different ways that the system can actually perform its functions. You don't have to do. You can build the groups and have them laid out as you wish, and then proceed with the deployments as you see fit. Or if you already did the deployments, if you went ahead and deployed your agents to all of your devices, but you want to have a hierarchy of how everything is against the domain, the system can import the domain data, and it'll make the relations accordingly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel here, and we're going to go ahead and do a quick rollout so that you can see the capabilities of the product. So right now I am in the client rollout service or configuration. Okay, this will, even though the rollout type is set to reinstall, which what we'll do is it'll remove any old agents that you have on that device and then perform a brand new installation on it. Okay, the system will basically uninstall and then install the agent, a fresh copy of the agent into that device. But you can use reinstall for devices that don't have the agent, because all the system does is a check. Okay, so we have the rollout set for reinstall, and we're going to go ahead and say we're gonna try to deploy to Asgard, which is my domain controller. Okay, so what you would do before you actually deploy, and that's one of the reasons why you want to make sure that you have a domain credentials here that can push these type of programs to your clients. Okay, so I added my administrator credential for my HomeNet domain here so that the system can authenticate. You can add multiple credentials. These are all local users that I have for devices that are not in the domain. As long as they're valid credentials, then the system will go ahead and deploy and do a push deployment as well. Or I can also give you a demonstration on how to do a pull deployment by going into the website in a few moments. But we're going to go ahead and do the rollout here for this device. So we're going to go ahead and right-click. We're going to verify the rollout. Make sure that the machine is awake. And normally when you see the rollout saying done with a green checkbox, that normally means that the rollout is going to complete successfully. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the rollout, and we'll give it a few moments for it to do its thing. It's going to take maybe a couple of minutes for it to install, but we're going to try to take a look at it from here. So this is the machine that we're deploying to right now, my virtual environment for my domain controller. And let me go ahead and log in here pretty quick. Okay. Normally you will see a shield pop up here. Oh, there it is. So as you can see, the rollout finished, and the shield is showing up as initializing. It'll show up as a gray shield at first, and now my shield is blue, which means that the agent has been deployed successfully. So if we go back to our rollout, and if we refresh, you will see that the status here will say installed. a very good tool for pushing your agents to devices. You don't have to worry about sending people over to install the agent on a device and things like that. Now, there might be a case or two in which, let's say, for example, a machine that is not on the domain needs to have the client installed. You could try pushing it this way. Okay, as long as the local administrator credentials are correct, you should be able to deploy them. But if you're in front of the machine and you say, okay, well, I'm in front of the machine, I'll just go ahead and install it. There's this website over here that you can use to do the deployment. So I think I might be able to do it by name. Odin is my asset core machine. To Odin, and then we log in. Try. I don't think this account has access, but it should. So let me go ahead and. Okay. So as you saw here, I logged in with my domain credentials. Okay, and I'm able to see the rollouts that are available to me. All right, I have a client rollout. I can even set up an uninstall agent if I wanted to. So if there's a machine that does not need the agent anymore, you can actually do an uninstall. Okay, and finally a relay rollout for devices that are going to be acting as a relay. Okay, so if I do client rollout, I'll go ahead and download that here pretty quick. Save this card to that. We're going to show all downloads, and we're going to go to showing folder. Okay. Where's my? I think I clicked this card by accident, and that's not what I wanted to do. No biggie. Let me go ahead and do that again. So client rollout. Keep. Okay, let's go back to downloads. So here's my agent in here. Now remember what I mentioned to you, that reinstall will remove any existing clients from the device and install a brand new one. So right now this machine locally has a client installed on it, as you can see here, and it's running. So we're going to go ahead and right click, select run as administrator. Okay, you can see that it's removing the agent. You see down here that it's gone. Now it's recopying the files, redoing the configuration. Agent has been installed successfully, and as you can see, we have our little gray shield back in the bottom. In the bottom right-hand side, we have a little gray shield initializing right now. Okay. So these are just a couple of ways that you can actually do a rollout, and you can do a pull rollout the way that I just displayed here right now, and you can also do a push, which will send it from the rollout server and push the clients to those devices. Okay. All right, so we cover a little bit of the rollouts. We cover a little bit of adding devices from your domain, as well as adding users from your domain. And we're going to go ahead and cover a little bit of asset discovery. Asset discovery is a function of Asset Core that allows you to scan your network so that you can go ahead and add devices in a particular fashion. I did a scan earlier. Okay, and if we go under Assign Scans, these are the devices that the system found. One of the beauties of the Asset Core discovery is that the system allows you to do inventory of software and hardware, okay, depending on the device and depending on the credentials that you supply to it, as well as whether the machine is part of the domain or not. So if you notice on this, on these results here, okay, you will see that these two devices that were in my domain actually pulled a software and hardware inventory. You can notice that by the green checkboxes here. These other devices that you see here are other devices that are located in my household right now. This device here is the laptop that I'm currently running the presentation on for my work, but this device is not part of the domain. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because the system will still find the device on the network, okay? Depending on the credentials that you supply the discovery with, the system will be able to then pull a software inventory and hardware inventory as needed. The laptop, in this example, didn't have the credentials specified, okay? The same goes for this device. Remember that Loki is not part of the domain. Even though the machine is hosting the virtual environment for it, but the machine was never added to the domain to begin with. So the system is finding all of these devices, but it's not going to pull any software or hardware inventory. Now, that's no reason to fret, because that's just one of the reasons. That's one of the ways that the system can actually pull information, by doing the asset discovery. But remember that because I added the agent to that device, okay, the agent will scan the device internally, okay, for any software and hardware that it has. And then it'll convert it into a nice package that it will send over to the master server. And then all of that information, when it comes to hardware and software, will be pulled by the agent itself. But it's just a little example of some of the things that you could expect when running an asset discovery, okay? For the configurations, what I did was I added my HomeNet administrator and the password to the Windows SMB, server message block. Okay, you can do the same thing with Linux. You can add SSH credentials with Linux if you want to pull up some information on Linux devices. Hardware and software information may not be able to be pulled from Linux, only because the way that the Mmap works, which is Mmap is the program in the background that gathers that information. Mmap can only pull information from devices that have the BIOS interface for Windows. I think it's called it's either Wins or I think it's not SNMP, but it's basically the program in Windows that not the program, but the service in Windows that interfaces with the BIOS so that you can gather the information for devices. Network devices or SNMP, if you have a SNMP community out there, especially for printers and switches, if you have a valid SNMP community, asset discovery can pull that information down from those devices as well. And finally, you can even pull information from devices that are in vSphere or Hyper-V or Microsoft, in case you want to try to find information with regards to virtual environments. So you have those options as well. As long as you have the credentials entered, the system will be able to pass them through to the device and collect as much information as possible from it. Okay. Also keep in mind that the system will find pretty much everything on the network. Like for example, it found my home's wireless router. It will find that information there. All of this information here is from my wireless router, but it can also find devices like iPads, phones, iPhones that are connected through the network. If you have them on the wireless, it will be able to find those items as well. It's a good tool if you want to find out how many devices like these you have connected on the network. Now, you won't be able to install the agent on these devices. The agent is only valid for operating systems like Windows, Linux, and Mac OS X. So you won't be able to administer them like you will be able to with a regular PC, but at least you can pull that information up from the network in case if you ever want to figure out if there are any devices connected that are iPads or iPhones and things like that, you will be able to pull that information from there as well. And if you want to see these devices in more detail as they're added, the out-of-the-box group, like so over here, has a group for discovered devices. In here, it'll add devices that do not have the client on it that has been discovered, or added like we did earlier with our domain configuration. Just notice that we have NT controllers 1 and 2, Exchange 1 and 2, and our Texas IBM 1 and 2. Okay, and you can see here that it found my phone at one point, as well as my iPad, and I think this device here is it's my TV box for Amazon. So the system is able to find those devices out there on the network. Okay. Alrighty, and one item that I forgot is user groups. If you want to add users from Active Directory, you can also do so from here as well. I can actually give you a quick rundown on it. So we do the same thing. We create a new group. We're gonna leave it as new user group, and you do the dynamic population, directory server. Okay. And let's say, for example, we want to add our folks over in St. Pete. Say yes to synchronize. Say close. And if we go back and refresh, here are our users. Now users, what the users do is you can associate these users to devices. You can have multiple device relationships with those users. So you can have a primary relationship and a device name. And let's say, for example, that this user has a relationship with this device. It already has a relationship. But you can see here that you can have multiple relationships, primary or secondary. Right now, the current user is the administrator, so that relationship is already established. But with the users, you can add these type of relationships to the devices so that you can keep a record on who has access to these particular devices. Now, normally what will happen is when you add your users into the user groups, and then as you start bringing devices in with the agent, okay, the system can make the associations for you. So if, let's say, for example, I have Mr. Richard Longo here as one of our users. If, let's say, for example, I wanted to establish a relationship between his machine and him, if I were to install the agent on his device, okay, as the system sends this the information up for the hardware, the software, and the general information of the PC via the agent, the system will say, okay, wait a minute, the last logged on user I see here is Arlongo, HomeNet Arlongo. And I see here that I have a HomeNet/Arlongo in my users group. Let me go ahead and associate them. And then the system will automatically associate the user to that PC. Okay. So we covered that. And we're going to go ahead and go over software deployment, okay? So software deployment, you will basically go onto the packages node, okay? And you will see a couple of items here with regards to deployment. One of them is your package factory. As you can see here, I added 2 devices to be my package factory. Now, what a package factory is a machine that contains all the executables and installation programs to convert into packages, okay? The packages in question are either zip files, they can be zip files, or they can be PKG files. Why the reason for it to be a zip file or a PKG file? Very simple. It's because remember that you can actually deploy these programs to OS X devices and you can also deploy programs to Linux devices as well. So the best universal format that you can use to package in those files is basically a zip file or a PKG file. A PKG file it's a secure zip file in a sense. The difference is that the compression format is different, and a PKG file allows easier installation on devices with antiviruses installed on it. Sometimes the antivirus might get a little bit overzealous if a zip file gets, somewhat placed on their system, and it may not allow you to run the program. So if you convert the program or the package, I should say, into a PKG file, then it will allow easy transmission to the device and allow it for it to install. Okay? So now that I mentioned that, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how to configure a custom package for deployment. Okay? So let's say, for example, that I want to install Firefox on this device here. We're going to go ahead and install Firefox on Heimdall here. So let me go ahead and log in. Okay. So the only browser that I have on this machine right now is Internet Explorer. And I say, okay, well, I want to install Firefox on this device. Okay, and I want to go ahead and push it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and run through the wizard so that you can see the process step by step. Okay, so here we have the selection for which device are we going to be using to build the package with. Okay, we have these two devices here. We have, this is the master server, as you guys know, and we also have Loki here, which is the device that's hosting the environment. So we're going to go ahead and select Loki, and we're going to select custom package. Now you can also deploy MSI packages. MSI packages, what it is an MSI file, just like your regular MSI file. But MSI files have a lot of switches that controls the behavior of the MSI file. You can set up a switch to install, you can set up a switch to uninstall, to run quietly, to run showing just a window but without user intervention and things like that. Those options can be configured in the graphical user interface of Asset Core without you having to memorize all of those different switches for an MSI package. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and deploy a custom package, which is your standard exe file. Okay, so we're going to select Loki as the package factory. We're going to select custom package, and then we're going to go ahead and click next. Okay, we're going to give the package a name, Firefox version 35. Okay. For the archive type, remember we got two types. We got zip and we got PKG. So to avoid problems with the antivirus, make sure that the package deploys correctly. We're going to go ahead and select PKG. Okay, and then you have some additional options here for you to configure the package. You have installation options. You have present and absent files. You have run as options. You have the options to add files. Obviously, you need to have that one checked because you're going to be adding files in a few moments, as well as a pre-installed script and a post-install script. Now, the installation options, you will see them in a few moments, but let me go ahead and explain these other three here pretty quick. Present and absent files, what that is the system will check in a specified location that you tell it to see if the file is either present or absent, okay? If the file, let's say for example, if the file is present in the location that you specified it to, then the installation of the package will continue, okay? Same goes with absent. If you tell it, check to make sure that this file is missing at this location, okay? If the file is absent, then the installation of the package will continue. If the file is present, right, then the system will just go ahead and stop the installation of the package. Same goes for absent and things like that. Pre-install script and post-install script the system allows you to run a script. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Not necessarily run a script, but it allows you to configure a script. But it's a script in a language called Chili, which is the language in which this program was written into. Okay, you can run a pre-installed script and a post-install script, but you will have to do a little bit of programming on your side with Chili if you want to do additional instructions, including running the package. You have the options for you to be able to do so by doing a pre-install script and a post-install script. Okay. Now, the run as options is what allows you to specify the credentials so that you can pass the package over to a device for installation. Okay. Now, keep in mind also that depending on your configuration of Windows, okay, the system will allow you to install the package depending on your UAC settings. Normally, the installation of packages, a lot of people don't like to specify the run as options unless your security settings in your domain specifically requires you to specify credentials for a user that has access to be able to install programs. Okay, so in this example, we're going to leave the run as options as is. I'm going to click next. And then for the installation options, this is the part where you set up a destination path and you set up the run command that the system will use for it to initialize the installation of the program. Okay, so for the destination, we're going to tell the system to decompress the file, the package, in the ctemp folder. Okay, for the run command, we're going to tell it to run from the ctemp by doing the following. Okay. So it's going to go into, it's going to extract the executable in the ctemp. The run command is going to be ctemp Firefox setup stop 35.0.exe. Now in here, you can specify options so that it runs silently, but you have to do this manually. Like in the case of Firefox, -ms means that the setup stop is going to run silently on the background without user interference. Okay, which in most cases is what you guys want to do. You don't want to have the user in front of the computer and then all of a sudden this thing pops up and then have them go next, finish, and then the installation of the package will be completed. Okay, so we're gonna have this run silently. Okay, and we're gonna click next, and here is where you specify the run as options. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna set up HomeNet administrator. Okay, and then we're going to set up the password. Like so. Okay, these are the credentials that the system is going to pass over to the remote device that's going to be receiving the package. Okay, we click next, and here we add the files. So we do the same thing. Temp. Uncheck that. Actually, I'll leave the enable full path so that's temp folder. Click OK. So if you enable the full path, what's going to happen is it's going to add the temp directory and it's going to add the file. Okay. Click next. We're going to go ahead and publish this package to the master server. Basically, what's going to happen is that the package factory is then going to send the package over to the master server so that then the master server can distribute over to the other clients. Now, keep in mind one thing. You have the option to publish to a relay, okay? But the difference between publishing between the master and publishing to a relay is that the master is the head of it all, okay? It sits at the top. It's the big kahuna, okay? So any devices that exist in different relays, like relay 1, relay 2, relay 3, and then its respective clients, when you deploy a package, the master will send automatically to the relay, and then the relay will disseminate the package over to the devices underneath it, okay? If you publish the package to a relay, okay, then what's going to happen is that the package will be sitting at the relay that you published to, okay, and it's only going to be available to devices that are connected to that relay only, okay? So if you publish the package to relay 1, okay, only machines that are connecting to relay 1 will receive the package. Relay 2, relay 3, and relay 4 will be left out unless you publish that package to those other relays as well. This is actually pretty good, especially if your environment is over long distances and you want to make sure that the master server is not sending that package down to those devices and then disseminating it down to them. You can publish it to a relay. So, you know, if you have a machine, we're in Florida and I have my machine in Texas. So if I want to make sure, if I know that these machines in Texas only need that particular program and I don't want to go through the hassle of sending that over through the master, going through the wire, taking its time and things like that, I can just simply send it to the relay. The relay will have it ready and available to those devices underneath it, and then the distribution will be a little bit faster. Okay, so in this case, we're going to go ahead and publish that to the master server, and we're going to click Finish. And then it's going to take us to the next step of the wizard, which is the operational, to create an operational rule and deploy a package. Now, the differences between the two here is an operational rule is a set of instructions that you can send to a device in order for it to perform a specific function. So if you want some additional things to happen other than just the simple deployment of the package, then at that point you will create an operational rule and you can set up line-by-line instructions on things to do. Like, for example, if you want the machine to reboot first, then install the package. You can do that. If you want to be able to run certain things, like cleaning up deleting some folders or copying some additional files and things like that, you can actually do that with an operational rule. But we're not going to get into that today. What we're going to do here is we're going to just go ahead and deploy the package. Say yes to that. And then we're going to assign a device group, or a device, I should say. And we'll search for Mr. Heimdall. Okay. Say Finish. We'll go to the package. Okay. And our deployment is going. So we're gonna wait a few moments here for it to send the files, make sure that everything is assigned correctly. And then we'll see the installation of Firefox on that device. So if we go back here, make sure that I don't have to log in. The client is running. Let's go back to this guy. Okay, so it has been assigned. That basically means that the instructions were sent over to the device, the instructions saying, hey, I got a package for you. And the device is responding back saying, okay, I got it. All right, so it's being assigned. Now, what's happening in the background is that package is getting sent down to this device. So in a few moments, once the device finishes receiving the package, okay, it's going to change its status saying, I got the package, I'm ready to run. This should take a few moments. And once the package is ready to run, the behavior that we should see is actually nothing. We're not going to see anything happening here. We're not going to see a setup. The reason for that is because I added those silent switches so that the program would just simply go ahead and install without any user intervention. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, package is still getting transmitted. Let's go back to this guy. And also keep in mind that this is a very simple setup, okay? This is just one file. This is just one executable, okay? But keep in mind that when you're building the package, you may need more files in order for you to be able to perform the installation. Let's say, for example, if you want to deploy Office, Office Professional to a computer, okay? You're not just simply going to copy the setup.exe file. You have to make sure that you copy every single folder, every single file from the CD or from the any ISO files or anything like that. Copy those files. You make sure that you build the package with those files, and then the system will send them down. It'll decompress everything and then execute in accordance to the command that you specified. Okay. So as you can see here, the system received the package and it's saying, okay, I got the package. Let me go ahead and run it. All right. So if we go back to, I know here, if I am not mistaken, it should create, we should have a Firefox logo here. The icon should appear. We're not going to see anything happening because, like I said, we configured it to run silently. And we should have that installed in a few moments. Okay. Okay. Make sure that I have that set up to run immediately. So I'm going to keep refreshing here. Make sure that I don't have it installed already. Because I was pretty sure I didn't. Yeah, I don't have it installed. Here. Okay, so we got a failure. Let's see what the error says. Failed to execute program. Okay, we have a little bit of a snag there, but no big deal. If you get failures, for example, this will be a good opportunity to go over that pretty quick. So we got a failure here. It didn't execute properly. It is possible that the command that I specified was not the correct one. So you can always go into the package again by going into the package factory. Remember, we created the package using the Loki device. Then go to Custom Packages, go to Firefox, and then go into the configuration and the installation tab here, okay? So I set the wrong command to do ctemp Firefox setup stop.350exe/ms. So let's go ahead and say, okay, let's go ahead and take this out. Let's take this out of the equation and then just do the executable, okay? Every time that you modify a package or any time that a package gets, if you, let's say, for example, add the temp folder here, which, by the way, let me go ahead and check on that pretty quick. Sometimes what it happens, too, is it actually does a ctemp, and that's a common error. See, that's the reason why it failed. What happened here is that the system creates a temp folder when it's actually in the process of extracting, but then we packaged it so that it does another temp folder, and that's the reason why the installation failed. Okay, which is a common mistake. If you want to avoid that mistake, what you can do here is when you're adding the file, we're going to remove this guy here. We're going to add the file again. Only this time, we're going to specify the file, and we're going to uncheck the enable full path option. That way, when it extracts into the temp folder, it'll only extract the executable. All right, we'll go ahead and click OK. Let's go to the configuration here. Let's go ahead and put that back because I was pretty sure I got the right switch. Okay, and every time you make a change, you have to right-click on the package, and then publish to the master. Okay, the package has been published. Let's go back to devices, and let's go ahead and reassign the package. There's another thing that's pretty cool about the package deployment while we wait for the device to receive the package. So let's say, for example, you want your users to be able to install this. You want your users to install it on their own. So we're gonna use Loki as an example here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna advertise the package. So we're gonna go ahead and go under operational rules, refresh, make sure that I got. Didn't add the operational rule to it. I should have. It's kind of weird there. Go ahead and assign the device. Say no to the default schedule. We're going to add Loki. Click OK. And then we're going to right click and advertise the package. Okay. Advertisement, what it does, it sends instructions to the clients indicating that there is a package available for them to install. So rather than you pushing it down to them, you just simply send a message to the client saying, hey, there's an executable that I need you to run. So what's going to happen is that in a few moments when the advertisement is done, the agent here, our little blue shield here, will have a yellow item, and then it says there's a new resource available. Okay. So you can see here, there's like a small yellow package there. So if we double click on the agent, make sure that we go through, there's My Apps, okay? And then you can click here and they will install Firefox. And it'll install with the same rules that you set up the package with. It'll install using the silent mode and basically go through the installation depending on the program that you're installing and the instructions that you set the programs with. Okay. All right. So our friend here, Heimdall, is ready to run. Let's go ahead and take a look and see. I apologize about that, folks. It seems like I may have used the wrong switch, but you're seeing the idea here, okay? You can see that Firefox is installing. So if, let's say, for example, we were to do install and go through the setup, we can even appreciate the haiku there. And once the installation is finished with Firefox, okay, then the agent will send the instruction saying, hey, this is finished. There's our Firefox there. And then if we go back here, our item shows as executed. Okay, so we cover a little bit of how the packages are built, you know, what a package factory is, the different type of packages that you can use, and really quick, I want to cover one other type of package that you can actually build, which is a snapshot package. What a snapshot package is, you basically have a machine, a package factory that has no operating system installed. Well, I shouldn't say no operating system installed. I should say more like a clean operating system with nothing installed on it. Okay, you have your operating system, Windows 7, Windows XP, Windows 8, whichever, and it has nothing installed on it. No antivirus, no programs, nothing. Okay. You install the agent on that device, and then you make that device a package factory, similar to what we did here with Loki. Okay. Then at that point, you take a snapshot, you take a picture of that device, the way it looked at that time, you know, what programs it has and things like that. It'll create a baseline. Okay. Once you have your baseline created, you can then proceed and install other programs as you see fit. So, this is particularly useful if you have, let's say, for example, some proprietary programs or some old programs that you need to manually enter registry key setting changes and things like that. You can build a package that will basically automate that process for you. So once you make the changes to the PC, right, you will take another snapshot, and what the system will do is it'll compare the baseline with the changes that you made, okay? And based on the changes that you made, that's how the package is going to get built, and then the deployment process will proceed the same way as we did with our custom package for Firefox. You send the package down, the package will run, and then those differences will be implemented on the new devices. Okay. So we cover that. We cover installing using MSI file, which basically is just a graphical interface on running an MSI file with all the different switches and options that MSI files have to offer. And I guess that's it. That's my presentation for today. I'll pass it along for you, Rich. And thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Emil, thank you very much. I think you covered a lot more than folks were probably anticipating, and that's a great thing. And I want to thank everyone who attended today, and also refer you back to our website. Should you need any other additional help with your client management tool, please reach out to us and go to our client management page. We do offer professional services. We also offer training, administration training. We can have someone do a health check for you and see how your system's working for you. You can contact us directly at 844-FLYCAST, or as I stated before, go to our website and fill out one of the appropriate forms, and we'll be happy to get back to you. We also offer remote administration for this tool, so we can be that extra man that you need in your department. So keep that in mind as well. With that being said, I'm going to wish everyone a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your week, and thank you again for attending another Flycast Partners presentation.